She walked in on her husband's promotion party, but realized it was actually his wedding, part 2. Elena had been in her new city for 6 months when the first letter came. She was living in a tiny apartment near the university, the kind of place where you could touch both walls if you stretched your arms out wide. But it was hers. Every piece of furniture, every dish, every book on the shelf belonged to her and only her. After 3 years of sharing everything with Marcus, having her own space felt like a luxury. The letter was thick and official-looking, with the name of a law firm she'd never heard of printed on expensive paper. Elena almost threw it away, thinking it was some kind of advertisement, but something made her open it. "Dear Miss Rodriguez," it began, "we represent the estate of Margaret Chen. We have been trying to locate you for several months regarding a matter of inheritance." Elena read the letter 3 times before it made sense. Margaret Chen. She remembered that name from the wedding disaster. Marcus had mentioned her once or twice as an old family friend, someone who had helped him when he first moved to the city. According to the letter, Margaret Chen had died 4 months ago and left Elena something in her will. The lawyer wanted to meet with her to discuss the details. Elena stared at the letter, confused. Why would a woman she'd never met leave her anything? She'd never even heard Marcus talk about Margaret except in passing. It didn't make sense. But the letter looked real, and the law firm checked out when she looked them up online. Elena called the number and made an appointment for the following week. The lawyer's office was in one of those tall buildings downtown, where everything was marble and expensive looking. Elena felt out of place in her jeans and sneakers, but the receptionist was kind and offered her coffee while she waited. Mr. Williams, the lawyer, was a small man with kind eyes who reminded her of her grandfather. He shook her hand warmly and invited her to sit down. "Miss Rodriguez, thank you for coming. I know this must be confusing for you." "Very confusing," Elena admitted. "I don't understand why someone I never met would leave me anything." Mr. Williams opened a thick folder on his desk. Margaret Chen was a remarkable woman. She never married, never had children, but she was very good at reading people. She had a talent for seeing who someone really was, even when they were trying to hide it. Elena waited, not sure what to say. Margaret knew Marcus Valdez quite well, Mr. Williams continued. He worked for her company for a short time, about 4 years ago. She fired him. She fired him? Elena was surprised. Marcus had never mentioned working for anyone named Margaret, and he definitely never said he'd been fired. Yes, she caught him stealing money from client accounts. Small amounts at first, but it added up. She could have pressed charges, but she chose not to. Instead, she kept an eye on him. Elena felt cold all over. She kept an eye on him. Mr. Williams nodded. Margaret was worried about the women in Marcus's life. She'd seen his pattern before. He would find hard-working, generous women and use them, take their money, their support, their love, and give nothing back. She knew about me. She knew about all of you. You, Sarah Morrison, Amanda Price, Jennifer Walsh. Margaret hired a private investigator to document Marcus's activities. She was building a case to have him arrested for fraud. Elena's head was spinning. There were others besides me and Sarah? Several. Marcus was very good at keeping his different lives separate, but Margaret was better at finding the truth. Mr. Williams pulled out a thick photo album and slid it across the desk. Elena opened it with shaking hands. The first page showed photos of Marcus with a woman she didn't recognize. They were at dinner, holding hands, looking like a happy couple. The date stamp showed it was from 2 years ago, when Marcus was already living with Elena. She flipped through more pages. Marcus with different women, in different cities, sometimes on the same weekend. Marcus at fancy restaurants Elena could never afford. Marcus wearing expensive clothes she'd never seen. Marcus looking happy and relaxed in ways she rarely saw at home. He was traveling for work, Elena whispered, remembering all the business trips Marcus had taken. At least that's what he told me. He was traveling, Mr. Williams said gently, but not for work. He was maintaining relationships with women in 4 different cities. Each woman thought she was his only girlfriend. Each woman was supporting him financially, in different ways. Elena kept looking through the photos. There were bank records, too, showing money transfers from different women's accounts to Marcus. Her own name was on several of the records. Amanda Price paid for his car. Jennifer Walsh paid for his apartment deposit when he moved in with you. Sarah Morrison's family gave him money for his business. And you... I paid for everything else, Elena finished quietly. Rent, food, utilities, his clothes, his entertainment. Margaret was furious. She'd seen men like Marcus destroy women's lives before. She was planning to expose him, to make sure all of you knew the truth and could press charges if you wanted to. But she died before she could do it? Yes. Heart attack. Very sudden. But she had already changed her will. She left instructions for us to contact all of Marcus's victims after her death. Elena closed the photo album. Why me? Why am I here and not the others? Mr. Williams smiled for the first time since she'd arrived. Because Margaret was most impressed with you. She said you were the strongest of all the women Marcus was using. She said you had a good heart, but also a smart head, and that combination was rare. I don't feel very smart. I let him use me for 3 years. You worked 3 jobs to support someone you loved. You put his needs before your own because you thought that's what love looked like. That's not stupid, Miss Rodriguez. That's having a generous heart. Marcus took advantage of that generosity, but that doesn't make you weak or dumb. Elena felt tears starting to well up, but she blinked them back. What did Margaret leave me? Mr. Williams reached into his desk and pulled out a small box. Inside was a simple gold necklace with a pendant shaped like a key. This belonged to Margaret's mother. It's been in her family for 3 generations, but that's not the main inheritance. He handed Elena another piece of paper. This one had numbers on it that made her eyes go wide. Margaret left you $50,000. She said it was to replace what Marcus stole from you, plus interest. She also left you something else. Elena couldn't speak. $50,000 was more money than she'd ever seen at one time. She left you all of her research on Marcus. Photos, bank records, testimony from other victims, everything. She wanted you to decide what to do with it. What do you mean? You could take this information to the police. Marcus has committed multiple counts of fraud across state lines. He could go to prison for a long time. Or you could do nothing. It's entirely up to you. Elena stared at the papers in front of her. All these months, she thought Marcus had just been a bad boyfriend who cheated on her. She never realized he was running a criminal operation and she'd been one of his main victims. The other women, Elena said. Do they know? We've contacted all of them. Sarah Morrison has already decided to press charges. Amanda Price and Jennifer Walsh are still deciding. But Margaret specifically wanted you to have the choice of leading the case if you wanted to. Why me? Because you're the one who exposed him. Mr. Williams said, that night at the wedding, when you walked in and told the truth, you saved Sarah from making a terrible mistake. Margaret heard about it and said you were exactly the kind of person she hoped you were. Elena left the lawyer's office with a check for $50,000, a box of evidence, and the biggest decision of her life to make. She drove back to her apartment in a daze. Everything she thought she knew about her relationship with Marcus was wrong. It wasn't just that he'd cheated on her or lied to her. He'd been running a criminal operation, and she'd been one of his main victims. That night, Elena called David.
"Hey," he said, and she could hear the smile in his voice. "How was your day? You sound upset." "Something happened," Elena said. "Something big. Can you talk?" She told him everything. About the lawyer, about Margaret Chen, about the money and the evidence and the choice she had to make. David listened without interrupting, which was one of the things she loved about him. "Wow," he said when she finished. That's huge, Elena. How are you feeling?" "I don't know," she admitted. "Angry, I think. And sad for all those other women. And scared about what this means." "What do you want to do?" Elena looked at the box of evidence sitting on her kitchen table. "I think I want to stop him. I think I want to make sure he can't do this to anyone else." "Then that's what you should do. But Elena, you know this is going to be hard, right? Going up against someone like Marcus, testifying in court, having your private life examined by lawyers and judges." "I know," Elena said. "But Margaret Chen chose me for a reason. She thought I was strong enough to handle this." "You are strong enough," David said. "You're the strongest person I know. But you don't have to do this alone." "What do you mean?" "I mean, I'm coming to visit this weekend, like we planned, but now I'm staying longer. I'm taking some time off work. You're going to need support, and I want to be there for you." Elena felt tears in her eyes, but this time they were good tears. "You don't have to do that." "I want to do that. We're a team, remember? Teams support each other." After they hung up, Elena sat at her kitchen table and went through Margaret's evidence more carefully. There were photos of Marcus with women she didn't recognize, in cities she'd never been to. There were bank records showing him taking money from all of them. But the thing that made her angriest was a notebook in Margaret's handwriting. She'd been tracking Marcus's lies, writing down the different stories he told different women. He told Elena he was an orphan who grew up in foster care. He told Sarah his parents died in a car accident when he was in college. He told Amanda his mother was sick and needed expensive medical treatment. He told Jennifer he was paying off student loans from law school. Every story was designed to make the women feel sorry for him, to make them want to help him, and every story was a lie. Elena realized that in 3 years of living with Marcus, she'd never met a single member of his family, never met any friends from his childhood, never seen any photos from his past. She thought he was just private. Now, she realized he was just careful. The next morning, Elena called the district attorney's office and made an appointment. She was going to turn over all of Margaret's evidence and press charges against Marcus. But first, she wanted to talk to the other women. Sarah was easy to find. Elena still had her phone number from that day at the coffee shop. When Elena called and explained what she'd learned, Sarah was quiet for a long time. 4 women, Sarah finally said. He was doing this to 4 women at the same time? At least 4, Elena said. Margaret thought there might be others she didn't find. I've already talked to a lawyer about pressing charges, but I was scared to do it alone. If you're willing to do this together, I am. We can't let him do this to anyone else.
Amanda Price was harder to track down, but Elena found her through social media. When Elena called her, Amanda started crying. "I gave him $12,000 for his mother's cancer treatment. He said she was dying and couldn't afford chemotherapy." "His mother isn't sick," Elena said gently. "He told me his parents were dead. He told Sarah something else entirely. It was all lies, Amanda." "I should have known," Amanda said, "but he was so convincing. He cried when he asked me for the money. He said he hated asking, but didn't know what else to do. He's very good at lying. That's not your fault." Jennifer Walsh was the hardest to find, but when Elena finally reached her, Jennifer was angry. "I wondered why he suddenly disappeared. One day we were talking about moving in together. The next day his phone was disconnected and he was gone. That was probably when everything fell apart with the wedding, when all his lies got exposed at once." "Good," Jennifer said. "I hope he's miserable. How much did he steal from you?" Elena did the math in her head. 3 years of paying most of their shared expenses, plus the money she had given him for his fake business opportunity, plus all the times she had covered for him when he was short on money. "About $30,000, she said. "Maybe more." "Jesus. He got me for $8,000, said it was for law school loans." By the end of the week, all 4 women had agreed to work together to press charges against Marcus. Elena found herself becoming the unofficial leader of their group, the one coordinating with lawyers and collecting evidence. David arrived that weekend as promised, and Elena introduced him to her new mission. "I'm proud of you," he said, as they organized papers at her kitchen table. "This is going to help a lot of people." "I hope so," Elena said. "I keep thinking about how many other women he might be doing this to right now. Well, after this, he won't be able to do it anymore." Elena looked at the evidence spread across her table. Photos, bank records, witness statements, everything they needed to prove Marcus was a criminal. "David," she said, "what if this gets messy? What if there's a trial and it's all over the news? Are you sure you want to be involved with someone who's dealing with all this?" David reached across the table and took her hand. "Elena, I'm not dating your situation. I'm dating you. And you are amazing. You could have taken that money and moved on with your life, but instead you're fighting for justice for women you barely know. That's the kind of person I want to be with." Elena squeezed her hand. A year ago, she'd been with a man who made her feel like she had to earn his love every day. Now she was with someone who loved her for exactly who she was. "There's something else," Elena said. "The lawyer thinks there might be even more victims, women in other states, maybe other countries. If we press charges and it gets publicity, they might come forward." "Then you'll help them too," David said, "because that's who you are." Elena smiled. He was right. A year ago, she would have been scared of the attention, worried about what people would think. Now she realized that sometimes the right thing to do was also the hard thing to do. The next Monday, Elena walked into the district attorney's office with 4 boxes of evidence and a determination to make sure Marcus never hurt another woman the way he'd hurt them. The prosecutor, a woman named Lisa Martinez, looked through the evidence with growing amazement. "This is incredible," she said. "I've never seen such detailed documentation of a fraud case. Who put all this together?" "A woman named Margaret Chen. She was trying to protect us." "Well, she did a remarkable job. With this evidence, we can probably get convictions on multiple felony charges. Wire fraud, mail fraud, identity theft, grand larceny. He's looking at serious prison time." Elena felt a mix of satisfaction and sadness. She didn't want to destroy Marcus's life, but she couldn't let him keep destroying other people's lives. "There's one more thing," Elena said. "We think there might be other victims who haven't come forward yet. Then we'll make sure they know they can come forward safely. This case is going to send a message that this kind of behavior has consequences." Elena left the prosecutor's office feeling lighter than she had in months. She was finally doing something active instead of just surviving. She was fighting back. But that night her phone rang. The number was blocked, but she answered anyway. "Elena." It was Marcus's voice, and he sounded desperate. "We need to talk." "How did you get this number?" "That doesn't matter. What matters is that you're making a huge mistake. You don't understand what you're getting yourself into." "I understand perfectly." "Marcus, you're a criminal. You stole money from me and from other women. You lied about everything." Those women knew what they were getting into. They weren't victims. They were investors. Elena almost laughed. "Investors in what? Your fake business? Your imaginary sick mother? Your non-existent law school loans?" "You don't know the whole story," Marcus said. "There are people involved in this that you don't want to mess with, dangerous people." "What are you talking about?" "The money I took from you and the others, it wasn't for me. I was working for someone else. Someone who doesn't like loose ends." Elena felt scared for the first time since this whole thing started. "You're lying. You're trying to scare me into dropping the charges." "I'm trying to protect you. Drop the charges, Elena. Take that inheritance money and disappear. Go somewhere far away and start over." "How do you know about the inheritance?" Elena asked, but the line was already dead. Elena stared at her phone, her hands shaking. How did Marcus know about Margaret Chen's money? She hadn't told anyone except David and the other women. Unless... Elena grabbed her laptop and started searching for information about Margaret Chen's death. The obituary said she died of a heart attack, but Elena kept digging. She found a small news article about a break-in at Margaret's house the week before she died. Nothing was taken, but the house had been searched. Elena's mind was racing. What if Margaret's death wasn't natural? What if someone killed her to stop her investigation? What if Marcus was working for people who were even more dangerous than she'd thought? Her phone rang again. This time it was David. "Elena, something's wrong," he said. "Someone broke into my apartment. They didn't take anything valuable, but they went through all my papers. And Elena, they knew about you. They knew about the case." Elena's blood ran cold. "David, you need to call the police," Elena said. "I already did." "But Elena, I think you're in danger, real danger. Maybe you should come back here, or maybe we should both go somewhere safe until this is over." Elena looked around her tiny apartment, her safe space that suddenly didn't feel safe at all. Everything she'd built, everything she'd worked for, was in danger again. But this time, she wasn't backing down. "No," Elena said. "I'm not running. I'm not letting them scare me into giving up. Too many women have been hurt already. Elena, if something happens to you, nothing's going to happen to me," Elena said with more confidence than she felt. "Because I'm not doing this alone anymore. I have evidence, I have other victims who are willing to testify, and I have the law on my side." But as Elena hung up the phone and looked out her window at the dark street below, she wondered what she'd gotten herself into. And more importantly, she wondered how much danger she really was in. The story wasn't over. In fact, Elena was beginning to realize it was just getting started. Thank you so much for listening all the way through. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for part 3. Drop your thoughts in the comments. What would you have done if it were to be you? Until next time, stay strong. Love you for real. Bye.